I'm going to sort by popular. Joey, hello, Joey. I'm glad you could make it. I hope I said hold on. I'm going to do my best. Russell Crowe and Gladiator. Are you not entertained? I tried to fulfill what I think you were asking for when we talked the other day. So Joey asks, how do we get this share of voice table? I'm not seeing it in my accounts yet. Oh, he says the talk was awesome. Thank you, Joey. Well, so it's coming out first to US, Canada, Australia. It's coming out in some of these English language markets. And then it will come to UK later, probably for regulatory reasons or whatever, but it's in like a pilot thing now. It's coming out later this year. Okay, so you're not going crazy that you don't see it. Sadly, we have to wait. Next most popular question: why can I not see AI performance insights? I'm sorry, I don't mean to say that it's here yet. Maybe I should have made that more clear. It's coming. It was announced at Google Marketing Live, and it should become more available later this year. Sorry about that. I know we all want this stuff yesterday. Are the new updates to Google Merchant API built in to accommodate base UCP needs as well? That's a great question. I would have to look at that to answer that in detail. I don't really think so. What I will say about Merchant API, so there is some more analytics besides the AI performance insights I mentioned. Some form of native checkout analytics coming, and it will be available through Merchant Center or Merchant API. The metrics are not great, you know, compared to what you would have if it would be your first party checkout. There's stuff like clicks to buy. I don't really know what that means exactly or how to interpret it, so sadly, but I think that's the only thing that jumps to mind in Merchant API. By the way, no, yeah, another topic, another time. Another thing popped in my mind, but let's see. If you are on Shopify, is a lot of the development heavy lifting taken care of with their direct integration, or do we still need to manually integrate everything? I have looked at Shopify's documentation a bit, and they talk about MCP containers, and I'm not as familiar with it. I don't know the exact scope of that stuff. What I do know is that it's not plug and play. You do have to invest developer resources, even with Shopify. And that's a bit frustrating, but we still, you know, it's early. We're in a bubble. Everyone in this webinar is probably a nerd, and we're in a bubble. This stuff is going to take time. The other thing I would say is, like, just looking at past history with Bio and Google, this was a very similar technical challenge that was reflected there, because your orders and your checkout and Google's like user interface, they all had to speak to each other. And what I can tell you is that they got there. No one ever used it in the end, but Google and Shopify made that into, if not plug and play, then nearly plug and play, seamless integration. And I'm convinced we will get there here as well, but it's not there yet. Yes, to someone asked if we'll share the recording. We will share the recording. We will share the slides. We'll share everything that we can. I'm confused as the difference between the UCP itself and the transport layers. Let's see if it. Yeah, if the consumer, so yeah, if the consumer systems have different transport layers, to answer your question, your final question you asked, can different transport layers work together? Yes, that is one of the whole points of this exercise. Is that you know, Shopify's using MCP, Google's using REST, someone else might use A2A, but it doesn't matter. All these systems will be able to talk to each other because they have a shared view of capabilities. That's what happens. They see commerce the same way. They understand the same building blocks as each other, and they're able to take it from there in a simplified way. The submission format of the conversational attributes has been spinning my brain, as some of them can be quite complex to format. Yes, in a sheet for a supplemental feed, and tools like Data Feed Watch are not caught up onto this. Are we using any tools or format templates? Have some patience with me, Joey. They just rolled out last month. No, and with the others too. Again, no, but I agree. Some of them are complicated, and there are thorny little things in there, because you'll be answering a question and it'll have like commas in it, right? But then you're uploading via CSV and it completely breaks. So there you need to use, like, there's going to be tips and tricks coming up, like use TSV instead of CSV, a tab separated sheet. That won't break. There'll be tips and tricks coming. Tools will work to support this. We are also looking at it ourselves, but more to come. Everything in time. Someone works for a subscription product that uses direct debit as the payment method. Do you expect this will be supported in UCP? I don't know about that payment method, but your subscription product is not looking good. I'm sorry to say. Subscription products are not currently supported as far as I know. Just to understand the merchant's item ID use case completely, we use this when our product ID in the feed is different than the product ID in the store. Yes, that's correct. My feed management software adds prefix suffix to my ID, and my store just uses the parent. Yes, you need that then. You have a problem, and you need that. Is there a value in publishing Q&A, product highlights, etc., if native commerce is disabled? 100%. Because UCP is powering organic experiences. Like UCP can appear in organic things and ads. This stuff all intersects with each other. This will help AI give visibility to your products, period. It will help serve new ad formats. It will help serve organic experiences, everything. You need this regardless of whether or not you might say, no, thanks, I don't want to do native e-commerce. Doesn't matter. You must use these to boost your visibility in the future. Good question. Do you think standard shopping heavy accounts should adapt toward AI mode strategically? Oh, yeah. Yes, I do. So if you're using standard shopping, you are going to have problems in the future if you do not use AI Max. And I see, I think you can have your criticisms of AI Max for search. I do. I have concerns. It doesn't inspire me that much, to be honest. It's mostly broad match and DSA. I don't find it inspiring. What can I say? But AI Max for shopping is inspiring. This is going to be great just for your normal shopping ads alone. It's going to rewrite your titles when there are hyper-specific queries. That is already a dream come true. How long have we always wanted that? So it's a must-have. Even though I have little direct experience with it yet, I've read all the beta stuff all the way through, and I'm fully sold on it. Feed getting complex more and more. Would it make sense to set up an internal feed optimizer in our shop backend, or should we leave it to Merchant Center? Yeah, the feed. This really contradicts what I thought 18 months ago, or even more recently, maybe. But the feed is so much more important, because Google could use LLMs to read everything on our landing page, read everything we have. They could do that, and they could build their own feed, but that's not what they want. That's not scalable enough, whatever. They're afraid of hallucinations. They want structured, verified data, semantic data. So I think it can absolutely make sense to set up an internal feed optimizer. There are other tools out there too, that are developing. There's Google FeedX, which is for A/B testing. There's in Product Studio API, there's a tool that will help you rewrite your titles and descriptions. Maybe I should mention this earlier in the webinar, but there is support that exists and that is coming. Will brands with resellers be able to submit authoritative conversational attributes, e.g. via manufacturer center? That is such a cool idea, and I don't know, but it's a great idea. I think that they should be able to. I've always felt manufacturer center never quite lived up to its potential, but that's a cool use case. Please send it to Google's product team. Will this be implemented in Greek markets in the future? I think so. I hope so. Europe is usually on the bottom of the list because we are a pain in the butt to deal business with because of regulation. But it will come to us eventually. I'm sure about that. A bit besides today's point, but will all these new AI features, with all these new AI features for shopping products, do you see AI-powered improvements for leads like B2B in the near future? Well, I didn't mention it because it's out of scope, but also at Google Marketing Live, an AI native format was launched for B2B leads. It's called B2B Business Agent or something like that. And basically, like in the lead gen text ads, there'll be a little widget that someone can click on, and they can talk. You have to check it out because I'm not a B2B lead gen person, but so there is so far one native format for lead gen, and I guess there'll be more coming. So I think the answer is yes. When do you reckon we'll see or need this in Europe? Well, you know what we're just talking about, regulation, right? With TikTok now being a marketplace, when do you expect Google to become one? Well, it's always been their dream. It's always been their dream, and they're getting closer now. For now, we're switching to products first in SERPs instead of blue links, but the links are still going to web shops, websites. When are we staying in Google to check out? So I do not know how long it's going to take to get here. I just don't. That's the answer. I think it could take, I hope by the end of next year, it's here. How long do they want to take? I know it's tricky. It's a thorny situation. I think, you know, with things like identity linking, which is very important for, you know, for helping people have a consistent experience from the merchant website. Like, you know, if your identity is known, your loyalty points can be reflected. You could get member-only pricing. It'll be relevant to personalization in all kinds of ways. That's the kind of stuff where, wow, as I said, the lawyers can work on that for now. Man, I don't know. How should we prepare for a shift from traffic acquisition to order fulfillment inside Google? Yeah, that's what I mentioned at the start there or earlier on, and it's not an easy question. It's not something that I'm really comfortable with, to be honest. But I think it is the direction of travel. And yeah, I think things like your post-purchase experience, you know, things like, for example, yeah, like we ordered something from a marketplace a couple months ago now, but and the seller went so above and beyond. The packaging was like amazing. It was a whole experience. It didn't just come in a brown box. That's just like one example where that brand jumped out to me and was memorable to me. And these are, you know, there's all kinds of avenues that we're going to have to figure out with post-purchase experience and stuff like that to try to nail this. But I don't know yet. What happens to measurement protocols for businesses? How will this affect attribution? Yeah, that's a great question. Hard to answer. I don't know what Google's final answer will be for attribution here, but you know, I think we've been talking about dark social in the past, and now we're talking about like dark chat, basically. And reporting is coming to Google Search Console now. Some kind of reporting is coming to Merchant Center. Google knows that this is a topic, and it might also be one of the reasons why they're pushing into MMM with Meridian. I think they're trying to pursue this from multiple angles. I mean, I talked with product people when I was in California last month, and one thing that impressed me in every conversation was how much they're listening and how seriously they're taking this, and that they're really working hard to get it right. And I think they can get it right. But attribution is a great question. Wow, still some people hanging on. Thanks. I'm just going to keep going. Why not? Should we move some attributes into a supplemental feed instead of the primary feed? Yes. The native commerce attributes, Google is very clear that these should go in a supplemental feed. And I don't, to be honest, really know exactly why, but they more or less say it's the least risky way of doing it. But your conversational attributes, I have to double check them, but I mean, I think they're ready for your main feed. What are your methods of giving Google the best first-party data outside of having consent mode, enhanced conversions, and customer lists? What am I missing outside that? Server-side tracking? Well, their answer to server-side tracking now is Google Tag Gateway. And so that's another thing to think about, of course. There are criticisms of it, but I think it's pretty cool. But when I think about first-party data, I'm an e-commerce guy. I'm a product guy. I've never been a huge audience expert or something like that, and so I really like to think first-party data means more. And I think of my products and everything I know about my business that Google doesn't. But in terms of audiences specifically, I mean, I think what you've described there has got it pretty well covered. There's, the next thing is they're bringing more ways to activate this inside the campaigns with new customer, high value new customer, all kinds of stuff. So, I think it's more, we're doing the best we can with measurement and actually logging this data and sharing it with Google. They're working also with, their data manager API and their trusted execution environments. They're building every number of technical solution here, but that's probably the subject of a whole other webinar. Industry leading with your knowledge. Thank you. I'll take it. When do you think UCP and all its features will be used by the general public, like Google is today? Man, I don't know. I mean, it's partly, I think there's a push and pull dynamic here. I think Google can take aggressive action here in terms of, how, like what they've done. They've changed the way it's not a search bar anymore. They're moving to a search box, and it is inviting you to prompt and to treat Google search like any other chatbot. Upload your media, all this stuff. They're integrating it with Google Chrome directly. And so this is what they can do from their point to try to encourage this behavior. But ultimately, there are consumers, and a consumer does not understand what the OAuth is. They don't understand that there's like this AP2 payment thing going on there. Like, as far as they're concerned, they're handing their credit card data to an LLM, and they're worried about that. I promise you, there's millions of consumers who think that. They're like, and you can't, it's such an education project to help them understand or change their mind that that's not true. How do you want to explain the technical way? Because the credit card data is completely secure. It's highly secure. But translating that to the mass market it's not simple. And so this is this trust gap. And then that's just one example. This is the trust gap. So how consumers will really adopt it, I can't quite predict it. But I think everything will move a bit slower than what we imagine. And you see how impatient we all are with some of the questions in here. Which conversational attributes matter most for our category mix? I need to know your category mix. I'm sorry to the person who asked that. I can't answer that unless you tell me. And I maybe I still won't be able to, but should we start migrating DSA to AI Max for search now? Yes, I believe I said it, but yes, I do think so. DSA is a beloved campaign technology for me. I'm sad to see it go, but it is what it is. I would do it now, especially just go in your reporting and filter to see how much of your revenue comes through DSA. If you don't know, then check it. And that will help you answer the question too. Because if you have a lot of your revenue coming through there, then you have the gift of time now to figure to go slowly. I'm also fully sold on AI Max for ecom and can't wait for AI Max for shopping. Been seeing great results with AI Max using brand inclusion and URL inclusion, etc. I'm really glad to hear that. Okay, hey, we arrived at the end. Oh my God, we made it. Thank you so much for everyone who stayed on to the bitter end. I enjoyed talking with you all, and I hope that this information was valuable to you. As a last thing, listen, I do think that smarter e-commerce is industry leading. We certainly try. So if you want to work with a partner like us, we're here, okay? I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much. Bye.